Hi everybody, it's Meg from Books Off the Beaten Path, and this morning I'm going to share with you some of my spooky stories from Okie Dokie. Now, first off, let me start by saying I do believe in ghosts. I don't know that I believe in traditional ghosts like Anne Boleyn walking around with her head under her arms in the Tower of London and everything like that, but I do believe that there's a veil. And then at times that veil, for whatever reason, gets thinner. Most people think it's during the wintertime, but I think it's just at random. And during the time when that veil is thinner, we could experience things that we can't explain. And that we don't need to explain them, but that we need to accept maybe we just can't explain it. So, I'm going to start my stories off with, now I've collected these and I have them in a book, but they're just handwritten out. One of these days I'm going to type them out. But I've collected these. Some of them have happened in my house. Some of them have happened in other places in Okie Dokie. And the way I got the stories sometimes is just as interesting as the story itself. So I'm going to start with story number one, which is the hospital story. Okay, years ago, and I mean years ago because I'm old, baby. Years ago, when I was fresh in my career and young and optimistic, I worked in a hospital. And in this hospital, there was a cardiac floor. And there was a beautiful woman who was the nurse manager of the cardiac floor. And we were sitting around in a meeting, waiting for a meeting to start and everything like that. And somebody mentioned to her about the funny things going on her cardiac floor. And so she said, "Oh, you've heard about my Korean man." So what the story she told was this, is that a patient, lots of different patients, would report seeing a Korean man in their room, either in the bathroom or standing by the window or just walking in and then walking out. And all the nurses on that floor knew that when they saw the Korean man, that person was going to have an incident within the next 24 hours. Not necessarily a death, but some kind of traumatic incident within the next 24 hours. And they would write on their nurses' sheets that they would need to watch that person very carefully. And that person had an incident within the 24 hours. Now, she and I were talking about it, and here's what I thought was most interesting, was I don't want to consider myself a prejudiced person by any stretch of the imagination, but Asian people, I could not distinguish a Korean person, say, from a Chinese person or from an Indonesian person or anything like that, but they always said the same thing. They always said it was a Korean man. Now, how they knew it was Korean, I don't know. But that's my hospital story. Okay, so the Korean man in the hospital. Now, my next story has to do with a church I used to attend. And I got this story from a priest who attended the church. Now, there was I haven't attended that church in a long time because it got a little too conservative for me. But anyway, when we were attending there, and we attended there for years, a long time, maybe 10 years or something like that. But anyway, when we were attending there, we became close friends with one of the priests. And I told the priest knew about my passion of picking up these stories and everything like that. And he offered to tell me one. Now, there was a long-standing rumor that the acreage that the church is on, and I don't know if you guys have ever been to T-Town or have ever been to Okie Dokie, but we have like a building and then a lot of land around it. That's not always the case, but most of the time it is, because that's the way things were built back then. And so the rumor goes that somewhere on that land there was an original cemetery, but it has long since been lost and long since paved away and everything like that. Well, he told me this story about they've always heard of the little boy in the church, and a couple of people have purported to seeing him. But he told the story of they were getting their air conditioning redone, and the air conditioning people had to go underneath the church in order to get the air conditioning redone. And they would come up and complain to the priests that they had to get that little kid out from under the church because they could hear him laughing and they could hear him talking, and occasionally they would see him dart behind something. And they were like, this is really dangerous. You can't have kids running around down there while we're trying to fix the air conditioning. So that's my church story. Okay, here's my hotel story. I gotta check to make sure I got nothing on my teeth. I don't want to have any lipstick on my teeth when I'm telling my scary stories. Okay, so here's my hotel story. So we have this old hotel in Tulsa, and I'll just go ahead and say it, and I'll probably get in trouble. No, I won't say it because I don't want to get in trouble. But it's this old hotel, and it's been redone, and it is just the height of luxury now. It is the height of luxury. And so again, several years ago, none of my stories are recent, by the way. So again, several years ago, my son was in Boy Scouts. Both of my sons had a brief stint in Boy Scouts. So my older son was in Boy Scouts, and we took a field trip to this hotel in order to, kind of look at the architecture, and the kids didn't get anything out of it. They were too young. They were like 6 and 7. They were just running around and being kids. But the parents got a lot out of the tour and everything, and it was great. And so when the tour was over, I asked the tour guide, we've always heard stories about this hotel, and give me the scoop. Are we talking real stuff, or is it just rumors all the way? And she's like, oh no, we're talking real stuff. She says, as a matter of fact, we had a man who asked to change rooms the night before because they have this one particular room, and she wouldn't tell me which one it is, other than I think it's on the 4th floor, that the water in the sink will go on, and the TV will turn on in the middle of the night. And yes, so he requested to change rooms, and they try not to rent that room out because they've had so many problems with it. So that's my hotel story. Now, what about my own little, I have one more hotel story, my Crescent Hotel story, which is one of my scariest, I think. But I have a couple of on the house. So let me do my last. Well, I'll save the Crescent Hotel story for last. So my little haunted house. My little house is old, and it doesn't mean it's antique or it's gorgeous or anything like that, but it's old. And we have had our fair share of, we call them spooky experiences in the house. And I will share a few of them with you. As you know, I like to get up early, and I am an early getter-upper. And so one morning, and again, we haven't had activity in years, and I think that's because most of the activity happened when we first moved in. And so I think that we're on the old Perryman Ranch, which is our house actually was like the first in the location of the first post office and of the Perryman family, who are very famous and wealthy Creek Indian family. And Rachel Perryman lived right in our area and like on the grounds of our house. And so I always think it's Rachel doing this, but I never know. Okay, so I'm up early. It's 4 a.m., 4:15, early. And I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm either journaling or cross-stitching or something like that. And I hear a book fall in the kitchen because I have bookcases in the kitchen. I have bookcases every frickin' where you can put a bookcase. So I hear a book fall in the kitchen. And so I get up and go to investigate. And sure enough, a paperback book has fallen from the bookcase. But it's fallen like a distance, like it hasn't just fallen flat from where it was. It's fallen like almost like in an arch. So it falls in an arch. And so I think to myself, well, is there a mouse back there? Holy God, I can't take a mouse and everything like that at 4 a.m. Hold on a second. Oh, I can't. I have to cover my mug because it says something dirty. Okay. I don't want to get in trouble with the YouTube police on that. So I put the book back up and I kind of feel around very tentatively behind the books to make sure that there's no mouse. And that took a lot of bravery on my part. That's one of the bravest things I've ever done. So I go back into the other room and I begin doing whatever it was I was doing at 4 a.m. and I hear plop, the book again. So I come back in and I see that the book has fallen in an arch. So now I'm skeptical. I'm like, okay, something is pushing this book out. So, and this is a true story. If I could get my husband on here, he would validate this. I put the book up in the bookcase where it was, and I begin to jump up and down in the kitchen to try to knock the book off. And I'm hitting the sides of the bookcase. I'm jumping up and down. And my husband, bleary-eyed with sleep, walks in. What the hell are you doing? I said, I'm trying to get this book to fall. I'm trying to get this book to fall again. Never fell again. So that's my book story. Now, here's another good one, and it happened to hubby. Didn't happen to me. So he was home alone, and he was in the bedroom, and the bedroom is kind of close to the front door. And he heard the knob of the front door rattle. And so he went over and he looked at the knob, and the knob was actually turning back and forth. Now, hubby he's a wonderful man. He's a great guy, but he is also a hunter. And I think you know where this story is going. So hubby goes and grabs a small firearm. And he goes and he grabs it and everything. And he throws the door open. And there's nobody there. But he saw the knob turning. So he takes the firearm and he goes out and he walks all the way around the house. We have a carport. He goes into the carport. And he can't find anything, and that really shook him up. He called me at work and told me about it. And yeah, so I've got a few more stories from the house that I'm not going to share yet. I'll save them for another time. They have to do with my sons and what they've experienced and what I've experienced with them. But I'll tell you my Crescent Hotel story because it's a wonderful story. Oh, I also have one about the Gilchrist Museum too. Okay, so the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs. When we were younger, we decided to take the whole family, including my mother, up to the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs and spend the weekend there. And I love the Crescent because the Crescent is supposedly haunted and it has that creepy, haunted look to it. Look it up. I mean, it's just creeping out. And so it's a great place to stay. We've been on a ghost hunt there, you know, like a tour and everything. But this year we didn't do it. Oh, Twitch, no. I'm getting to my greatest story. This is the greatest story. Twitch, don't disturb me. Okay, hold on. I got to put her up. Okay, I didn't put her up, but I hope she'll stay away. Okay, so we're staying in the Crescent Hotel. And we're staying at the far end. So like the elevators are in the middle. I think we're on the 3rd floor. And we're staying at the far end, far away from the elevators. And there's 2 staircases on either end of this floor. and then the elevator's in the middle. So it's way late at night, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and I hear the sound of spooky, right? And it was really that spooky. And it sounded like a cart being pushed, a cart with bad wheels. It sounded like a cart being pushed with bad wheels. And so I'm thinking to myself, what is a maid doing at this time of night? And so I can hear it coming closer and closer and closer to the room. Now we're at the very end of the hall, and and then the noise stops. And I think to myself, is there someone outside? I remember being so terrified, I was sweating. My heart was pounding. I was so terrified, I was sweating. And out of the blue, out of nowhere, my oldest son, Jack, who was 5 or 6 at the time, jumps out of bed, comes over. Now, I don't see any of this because we're in a suite, and he's sleeping over there with his grandmother. Jumps out of bed, puts both hands on my chest, which scares the hell out of me. So I wake up with a little start, and he's like, there's something outside. We have to leave now. We have to leave now. I won't stay here anymore. There's something outside. We have to leave now. He got into such hysterics that we actually packed up at like 2 in the morning and drove back to Tulsa. And he wouldn't talk about it. He still won't talk about it. He says all he remembers is just being absolutely petrified. So I have this friend, and his name is Mike. I won't give him his last name because I haven't asked permission, but I have this friend, his name is Mike, and he is a real paranormal investigator. He does other things. That's not his full-time job, but he is a real paranormal investigator. And so I told him the story, and he said, you heard the nurse. And allegedly, the story goes that there is a nurse that has been seen pushing a wheelchair, because the Crescent used to be like a hospital kind of thing for water cures and stuff like that. And there was a crazy guy who ran it, and he was killing people and then writing stories that they were still alive, writing letters so he could get more money and everything. But all of that aside, there apparently is a nurse who pushes a wheelchair around, and sometimes people see her, and he's like, you heard the nurse. And yes, those are some of my creepy stories. I have a few more good ones, a few more that have been given to me by friends and other people, and a few more that have happened in the house. But I just wanted to give you a few of my spooky stories because people seem to want to hear them. Heather, I hope that you had a great time. I had a great time telling them. And I don't know, leave me a comment. Tell me what you think, if you think I'm crazy. And I will check you later.